'cause no one knows. You made life cheery when you called me dearie. 'Twas down where the bluegrass grows. Your lips were sweeter than julep when you wore a tulip and I wore a big red rose. When you called me dearie, 'twas down where the bluegrass grows. Your lips were sweeter.
Passing by the jail this morning, heard a hard luck brother moan. I'm in here, right where I don't belong. Never done no wrong. As I passed by his window, I could hear him moaning this song. Sitting on the inside, looking at the outside, waiting for the evening mail. 4 walls and a ceiling, Lordy, what a feeling. Just a mean old low-down jail, separating me from everything but the evening mail. I'm like a ship without a sail. I wrote my one-time mama down in Jacksonville, said, sweet mama, I'm in jail. Honey, please don't fail me. Hurry up and mail me bail. That's just a year ago, and I'm still on the inside, looking at the outside, waiting for the evening mail. I had a letter handed to me yesterday from a mama that I met on Mobile Bay. She said, honey, won't you please send me down some bill? They caught me fooling with the evening mail. Had another letter from a man named Stout, saying he was gonna get me when I get out. Said that he was gonna meet me at the gate, but he don't know how long he's got to wait. Wrote my one-time mama down in Jacksonville, said, sweet mama, I'm in jail. Honey, please don't fail me. Hurry up and mail me bail. That's just a year ago, and I'm still on the inside, looking at the outside, waiting for the evening mail.
Sisters and brothers, this is Reverend Satchmo getting ready to beat out this mellow sermon for you. My text this evening is when the saints go marching in. Here come Brother Hickenbottom down the aisle with his trombone. Blow it, boy. Oh, when the saints go marching in, now when the saints go marching in, yes, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. Go ahead, Brother Holmes. When the saints go marching in, saints go marching in.
Marching in.
Yes, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in.
We'll get started in about 5 minutes, people. Thank you.
In the shade of the old apple tree, when the love in your eyes I could see, when the voice that I heard, like the song of the bird, seemed to whisper sweet music to me, I could hear the dull buzz of the bee. In the blossom as you said to me, with a heart that is true, I'll be waiting for you in the shade of the old apple tree.
Oh, batted in the shade of old apple tree.
Apple tree,
When the love in your eyes I could see.
I could see.
Mama, when the voice that I heard like a song of a bird seemed to whisper sweet music to me.
Music to me.
I could hear the dull buzz of the bee.
Buzz of the bee.
In the blossom as you said to me.
Said to me.
Mama, with a heart that is true, I'll be waiting for you.
Yes, shade of the old apple tree. Ya-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yada-yada-yada. Da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ya-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yada-yada-yada. Da-da. Ya-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Hello, everybody. Okay, I can't see myself. There we are. I never know how these things are going. Welcome to Poets and Pints, number 68, January 2021. This is pretty amazing. It's been a really fun day. I've never had so much fun watching CNN all day, but that's just me and my weirdness. I'm sure a lot of people are doing it, but today we have a really great show for you. But first, I want to pick on Charlie because he's here. Hey, Charlie, do you have a poem for us that, you know, the usual, like from a poet we might not have heard? You can unmute yourself. Should be able to. I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
I can find one real fast. I'm sitting right next to him.
That'd be great. You're always good for it, and I didn't have a chance to find one.
Yeah, all right. Let me see what I can come up with.
While he's doing that, I want to take a minute to look, Charlie. And I'm going to have David Bayless unmute because I want you to tell people about your event tomorrow, Dave. The former host of Poets and Pints, David Bayless.
Okay, wow. Okay. I'm part of an organization, a nonprofit that started last year called Greece Literatura, GRIS. It's pronounced the same, it's spelt the same way in 3 languages. So I thought that was cool. In French, Spanish, and Italian, but in French it's pronounced Greece Literatura. Anyway, we've been hosting these reading roundtable things since October. And basically the idea is that we have a bunch of poets, like 3 or 4 poets come over, there's a moderator, and we read and discuss poetry. We read not just our own, but also other people who inspired us, and generally what we've been doing recently since the start of it has we've been focusing on crisis poetry.
Okay.
So we did a whole thing on the poetry of witness. In October and December, we did joy in the midst of crisis. And what we're doing tomorrow is healing in the midst of crisis, which is something I think we all need.
Sure.
And in February, we're going to be doing Building a Future Out of Crisis.
So tell us about you have 4 people on your show tomorrow, right?
Yeah, 4 people. Sorry, long-winded. The 4 people tomorrow will be Joe Davis, Lisa Marie Bremer, Isela Cislali Gomez, and Paula Shashevsky. And we're on Facebook, Greed Literatura. Just scroll down on our events page and you'll find it. And I'll put in the chat the link to our website and the events page there. Tickets are pay what you can, starting at $5. Our suggested is $20. 100% of the ticket sales go to the poets.
Okay.
And there
Thank
you
you
go.
so much.
Thank you.
So check that out tomorrow, and he'll put all that information into the chat. And Charlie, what do you got for us?
Some of you may have heard of Bill Holm. This is out of a book of his called Playing the Black Piano. It's called MRI. What is the pain like, says the pretty girl with the clipboard. Like a serrated bread knife sawing at the top of the rib cage, punctuated with sharp blows from an axe or a meat cleaver. What she wanted was not too bad, or pretty bad, or even bad. An anonymous quality sans detail, sans metaphor. A little stoicism might have cheered her up. Are you claustrophobic? She asks with another nod at the clipboard. Of course, I answer. Isn't everyone, if they're still alive? Can I give you something for it? Only a lead gift in the twilight, if that's what it comes to. What? Never mind. How do you feel? She asks, after she has slid my supine body into the tight white sarcophagus, like a character in a Poe story. No, I work for Dr. Moe. Not much lit in the med tech course, I suppose. Lots of people like music, she nods cheerfully. What have you got? Easy listening, soft rock country? No Mahler's Ninth? No C-sharp minor quartet? Give me the news, I say. Ashcroft and the collapsing stock market seem about right. It's noisy, she warns. She has the gift for understatement. It is like being squeezed into an airless plastic coffin dropped on the floor of a sheet metal factory, stamping out auto parts or shell casings, irregular metallic thumping and whanging. Only an hour left, she says after 10 years. Just lay real still. We're getting really good pictures. Not much, not since the Middle Ages has anyone thought of a machine like this, a modern rack or Iron Maiden to take pictures of the spine, the organs, the bones, the muscles. Torquemada would have used it to take pictures of your opinions. He would have offered his heretic prayer, but neither easy listening nor Valium. He thought this to be God's will. We think it science. This is, I suppose, progress of a kind. One way or another, you wind up diagnosed. Either that or burned at the stake, another kind of diagnosis.
Thank you so much. So that's our poem from an artist you might not have heard of, and that was Bill Holm, you said?
Bill Holm.
Okay.
From the western part of the state, and he's I think he's no longer with us. He's been gone for about 10 years or so.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that. All right, I would like to tell everyone, remind everyone that usually this show, usually it's becoming relative at this point, but we used to be live at Sisyphus Brewery, and we hope to be again. So I want to make sure that, okay, that everybody supports them. So if you can go to sisyphusbrewing.com, they are not an official sponsor of the show. I just want you to help them because I want to have a home when the COVID is over. So go to sisyphusbrewing.com. They sell virtual gift cards on their website. You can buy one, give it to somebody else, or go down there. They have curbside pickup for their beer, and they're a great organization, and they're really nice to us. So please support them. Now, without further ado, we're going to get into our features this evening. And this first feature is an old friend of mine who I don't have time for the entire story, but she's really responsible, not to no fault of her own, for me being a performance poet, because before that I was just kind of a guy who wrote poetry and didn't tell anybody about it. And then she introduced me to some people who brought me to Kansas City originally, and then back here, and so on and so forth. And now I do this. And I got to go to her wedding, which was amazing. And Valeria Bisceglia, born in foreign lands, Valeria has gained an appreciation for the beauty of language across cultures. Finding little time for writing these days, Valeria's musings often remain in her head, unwritten, unspoken, lost to the world of business and helping others through this crisis. She's been writing since the age of 7, with her first poem being about a fluffy-tailed white bunny rabbit. She has received some minor recognition and awards in writing contests, but has not pursued it professionally. Cheers to unclaimed creativity. Everybody, please welcome Valeria Bisceglia. Did we not unmute you? You can unmute yourself too, but I'll unmute you as soon as I find you.
Got it.
There you go.
Thanks for butchering my last name, even though you went to my wedding, by the way.
I said it like the Italians I know. How's it supposed to be said?
Bisceglia.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go
No
to Pittsburgh
worries.
and you'll get called Bisceglia many times
And
over.
all sorts of other things too, so it's fine. I always joke, I have a colleague at work. Her name's Michelle, but she calls herself Shelly. Right, so I always joke when people want to remember how to pronounce my name that I want to be like Shelly when I grow up, right? So it's Bisceglia. So I guess I'll jump in. It's been a while since I actually performed any of my poetry, as Tony introduced. So I'll do my best to take it slow, because I don't even know if I have 15 minutes worth of stuff. Plus my accent, you probably notice I do have an accent, and I still want people to understand what I'm saying. So without putting you to sleep, I will have a slow pace so that hopefully you can figure out what I'm trying to say. So this first poem is called What If? Is probably one of the only ones that is on the longer side. I have 4 kitties in the background, so I apologize in advance if you hear little meows or screeches or somebody running on my screen. So what if? What if we hallucinate in the madness for a while and focus our sights just beyond infamy to ponder another possible world? The air, clean of all poison that does not come from human fears and human passions. In the streets, cars will be crushed by dogs. People will not be driven by cars, nor programmed by computers, nor bought at the supermarket, nor watched by their televisions. The TV will cease to be the most important member of the family and will be treated like an iron or washing machine. The crime of stupidity will be incorporated into the criminal code when committed by those who live to have or to win instead of living to live. Like the bird who sings without knowing what it sings, or the child who plays without knowing that he's playing. No one will live to work, but work to live. Economists will not call standard of living the level of consumption, nor quality of life the quantity of things. Cooks won't believe lobsters love being boiled alive. Historians won't believe countries love to be invaded. Politicians will not believe that the poor love eating promises. Solemnity will stop being thought of as a virtue, and nobody will take anyone seriously who is incapable of laughing at themselves. Death and money will lose their magical powers, and neither by death nor by fortune will the scoundrel become a virtuous knight. Food will not be a commodity, nor communication a business, because food and communication are human rights. Street children will not be treated like garbage, because there will be no street children. Rich kids won't be treated like money, because there will be no rich children. Education will not be the privilege of those who can't afford it, and police won't be the curse of those who can't buy it. Justice and liberty, twin sisters condemned to live apart, will come together tightly back to back. The Holy Church, for the many who care, will correct some errors in the tablets of Moses, and the sixth commandment will order us to celebrate our bodies. The church will also issue another commandment that God had forgotten, to love the nature that you are a part of. The deserts of the world will be reforested, and as will the deserts of the soul. The desperate will find hope, and the lost will be found, because they despaired from hoping for so long that they got lost searching. We will be compatriots and contemporaries of all those who will beauty and justice into existence, regardless of when they were born and where they have lived outside of the borders of space and time. We will be imperfect, because perfection will remain the boring privilege of the gods. But in this world, in this shitty and fucked up world, we will be able to live each day as if it were the first, and every night as if it were the last. The next poem is called Shu. The name comes from the Japanese word for air. It's a little shorter, I promise. The first one is the longest one I had. Time slips away between my fingers, a metamorphosis of unprecedented dimension, turning into oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, undefined in color or form. I am breathable, and yet I rely on the whims of the wind to move where I may reach you. I am easily trapped in a tightly sealed container, but like an old boombox resonating, I carry the sounds of all the voices that can't speak on my invisible shoulders. I am limited, and yet I am unbounded by your mortal limitations. Imitations of life. Without me, you can't breathe. My fingers slip away along the ripples of time, an unprecedented dimension turning into an extension of unspoken truths. I rely on the winds of the wind to move where I may reach you. I am everything and nothing. I am air. Breathe. The next one is called Scandal. I am a fan, geek, nerd, whatever you want to call it, of mythology of all sorts. And this includes some of my inclinations towards Greek mythology. So again, it's called Scandal. Ephemeral. We are made of starlight. Implacable. Sharon, I will be the scandal that revolts on your boat. Dust to dust to dust, cosmic comical things. Passengers on a treacherous slope, easily abstracted by simple metaphors, going with the flow. Until we find friction. Dust to dust to dust, traveling on a reckless path, Down your river I will go singing as a lark, and I will light up the darkness of your somber river. Extenuated I am of shadow, cold, and valor, but when you must leave me by the shore, it will be your arms that carry me down as a vandal's conquest. Ephemeral we are, made of starlight. Sharon, I will be the scandal that revolts on your boat. The next one is untitled and has remained such for some time. I know, Tony, that we started at a slightly different time, so I'm not exactly keeping track of time, so keep me on my toes.
You got about probably 7 or 8 minutes left.
All right, sounds good. I caress the clouds with the tenderness of fresh spring moss and bathe on the river flickering in its reflection, dreaming the dream of faraway stars. My cloak is the light of day, and I hide and behind the curtains watch the play. He brings life, I bring madness, or so they say. But I alone know what it's like to light the night sky with my every step. I conjure the oceans to rise and recede, I, the fish moon, and I command the sails, I, the moon of wind. Dust to dust, another stroke in the key of C for me as he and I sat together and he composed a sonata to my hair of snowflakes and spring flowers, of death and madness. I am Celine and Nikal, Casa and Mayari. I am Hathor and Anumathi. Rest, weary warrior, at my feet, while I caress your face with the tenderness of fresh spring moss. Let us dream the dream of faraway stars on this full moon night of me. This next one is called Lost. The lost tap on my door like raindrops with no place to fall, while I lay trying to remember the landscape of that place I called home. It was a dark time that December, and I knew it would be the last time. I kept coming to his door like a raindrop with no place to fall. We sit and play the violin, and the show goes on with no heroes or heroines. A tango is danced by all above and below, and the music keeps playing at a cost. The breadwinner and the winemaker entangled in a battle for what once was, tied in knots over a volatile present and an uncertain future, just as lost, tapping on my door like raindrops with no place to fall. The next one is called Under the Skin. She walked out the door with a glass of wine on one hand and a blue bouquet of words. I'm just passing the time, she said. Was it ever there at all? Or have I lost my way? She couldn't stop thinking of what could have been had she followed her heroes and older demons. Past the 9 to 5s, big bands and big bangs, looping her fingertips, waving their goodbyes, another drop of wine on her lips. With a ghost on her back, they'll have theirs and I'll have mine. And the world on her mind. I'm just passing the time, she said. And this next one is called Satin Dreams. Sandalwood feet and jasmine breasts, succulent fruits bursting with fragrance, the primeval feast of radiant countenance. Thread your steps watchfully in my garden. Spring has yet to come, and my blooms eagerly await the ingeminating guest. Shamash will be my flower's groom, and we will marry in the Tower of Babel. I wear my best dress, woven of ambrosia and earth. Thread your steps watchfully. Incense and myrrh are yet to birth in my garden. This next one is probably one of my brainy ones, in spite of being written on poor sleep. That probably has something to do with it. It's called Sleepless Nights. The mind of construction screams for interpretation as I learn that the shape of these scratches on the paper become a fantastic world under this fallacy of over-sophistication that ought to be called thinking. Fundamental neurosis, a Democritian complexus of round atoms confounded by the chaos of immateriality. Reason cannot hold back the pristine glory of circumstance. And so as I turn around in my sheets, as the mind becomes the ultimate and hopeless esoteric mystery, to sleep is in the end to resort to the argumentum bacalinum. In the fundamental reality of nature, life will go on exactly as it now does. How are we doing on timing, Tony?
You got one more for us?
Sure.
All right.
This one is called Pieces. A winter nest, fragile, empty, floating through the storm. Nothing takes a stronghold out there in the cold desert. An entire world getting on over us, and I just can't erase this. Crumbling walls, beating paper dolls under the rain. Losing pulse, the line on the other side goes dead. How Mary contrary of me, getting lost in the garden alone without you. Imposters, faking it, hiding in a silence of miles, a valley of fire, a basin of hope, and I just can't erase this. That's it then.
Thank you so much. Let me unmute. Everybody can unmute themselves. I'm trying. Unmuting everyone.
Great job.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
Really well done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Let me. Oh, people got it down. All right, let me. Where are you? Okay, so you should be able to unmute yourself, Valeria.
Oh, okay.
So it says in your bio your first poem was when you were 7. Did you then continue writing poetry, or that was just your first poem, but you really didn't start writing till later?
No, I don't think I ever stopped. I have like a lot of, I think even my parents have some of it stored away somewhere, but I never really stopped. Like once I discovered it as a way of expressing things that were sometimes hard to say in other ways, it just became like, a way of maybe like talking to myself. I never necessarily thought of it as a way of necessarily interacting with others, but it was more of like therapy, right? Like putting my thoughts to paper in a way that allowed me to say things that, that were either hard to process or hard to express in other ways. Mm-hmm. And integrating, I was reading like 7 books a day when I was 7 years old. So I think a bit of that was like integrating some of the stuff that I was reading and processing it in my head. And always a fan of history, of mythology, of all those things, and they just kind of like wove their way into what I wrote, because to me they were normal until I would realize that I would share with somebody else and they'd be like, what in the world are you talking about?
Well, and so have you always written in English, or did you start writing in Spanish first?
So I started writing in Spanish when I was between 4 or 5. My parents put me into a language school because they knew that we were going to be living in other places. So I was learning English and other languages at the same time that I was trying to figure out Spanish. Would drive my mother insane because I always joke about I would come home and ask for a cookie, and I want a cookie, like 2 of those words would be in different languages because I didn't understand that I was talking in different languages because I was learning them all at once.
Sure.
And my mother was like, no, hold on, like what?
Pick a side.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think once I started a university and I was more immersed in English all the time, then it kind of became more natural to write in English. And it has remained fairly consistent since, where now most of my poetry I just naturally write it in English.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember when the way I met you was just finding your poetry on MySpace, and like, yeah, that's how far back it goes. And
we're old.
Right. Yeah. And I just wrote her out of the blue saying, I like your poetry a lot, and I just want you to know, because it was like a classical style, but it was about modern things, and I thought, this is really cool. So I appreciate you so much for being here. You're one of my favorite people on the planet, and I'm really glad to see you again. And yes, thank you, everybody. Valeria, Shelley.
Yay. Thank you, Tony, for inviting me. This is great.
You're welcome. Okay, so moving on to the next person. Yeah. Okay, I'm not doing the show as seamlessly as I usually do. I miss my assistant. Okay, next. Next is another friend of mine. Her name is Ashley Cardona. Ashley Cardona holds an MFA from Augsburg University. She lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota with her husband, daughter, and 2 naughty but charming dogs, where she teaches high school students to care about language. Sometimes she's successful at this. I've read some success at that. She's very good at her job. Her poems can be found in Punt, Volat, Poached Hare, The Dollhouse, Lumina, and Poetry City, USA. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter at AKV Cardona. Everybody, please welcome Ashley Cardona.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Tony. I appreciate it. This is really fun. Wow, Valeria, that was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful imagery and language. I loved it. Hard act to follow. So I've been debating about how to start, and I think I'm going to go with a poem called Choosing a Weapon, because why not start with a little bit of force. This is Choosing a Weapon. I've been instructed to go after my life with an axe, to determine what can be hacked out, feel the heft of it, raise it high, take aim and swing. The brute force of the action is appealing, I must say, the wildness and desperation of the act, the ceremonious lifting up of the instrument, the unceremonious thwack of impact. But this axe is imprecise and clumsy. I tend more toward the scalpel or a small knife for whittling. Careful strokes create space too, just not as much and not as fast. But now is not the time for careful. An automatic rifle is efficient, but I don't trust the periscope or the precarious finger on the trigger. The inevitable spray of bullets could be too wide and might miss the target. Besides, I fear the kickback would throw off the whole operation, and I haven't the time to train. What I need, maybe, is a hand grenade or better yet, a cannon. I'll blow the whole thing wide open, burn it all to the ground, and salvage the ashes. Sometimes there is wisdom in destruction, and sometimes just debris. The silence is very strange, I have to admit, even though I'm used to like shouting into the void at my students and getting absolutely nothing in return from them. That's how it goes. All right, this next poem, if I can find it, is called Death is Nothing, Death is Everything. There's a poem called Death is Nothing, and the next line is, I've just slipped into the next room. And it's an absolutely beautiful poem, and I love it. And I was thinking of that title in the midst of grief, and sometimes in the moment, death feels like everything, right? So there's sort of this balance of, it's a natural part of existence, right? And yet in the moment, it's all consuming. So this is Death is Nothing, Death is Everything. The night you left us was unremarkable, except for the supermoon, which glowed luminescent and otherworldly, making sleep even more elusive. Restless insomnia was your domain until it was mine. I awoke sometime after midnight, restless until well after 3, well after your heart stopped at the unimaginable beauty of celestial bodies beckoning. Let's see. I feel like the poems that I chose for today might jump around quite a bit in tone, so just roll with it. Let's go to The Skeptic Buys a Smudging Kit. No shade if this is something you believe in deeply. I am embodying the skeptic here in this poem, and I find that stuff all very, very cool and compelling, and yet I don't know. The Skeptic Buys a Smudging Kit. Sometimes in the half-light of morning, you can see them in small puffs of dust, absurd metaphysical prisms they refuse to hide anymore. Mythology is one thing, but this has become mundane. Tired glances over coffee, a familiar nod when passing on the stairs, a learned coexistence. Each of us has our demons, each our remedies. Make an offering, say a prayer, arm yourself with light or an energy circle of crystals. The magic is always aromatic and promising. These house guests are impervious to ritual, nestled among your socks and coffee cups, lounging bored behind the toothpaste. An imperfect witch, you always try again. Light the incense, conjure some gusto, raise them up like corpses from the earth, unlatch the door, open the windows. Thank you. I was totally gonna set a timer so that I could keep track of how long I've been talking, and I didn't do that. I know I still have time. I'm not saying that. I just forgot to set it. Up next, let's read. I'll read this poem called What We Can Hold. Several years ago, there was a news article about this like crater of ice that they discovered on Mars. Do any of you remember that? Right? And among the commentary that caught my attention was this assumption that we would turn it into a tourist destination, and that like someday we'll be able to travel to Mars. And I was like, of course that's what we would do to this. Build a whole fucking Disneyland on it. So anyway, I wanted to play with that a little bit in this poem. What we can hold. When they discovered a crater of ice on Mars, a deep glacial cup, an expanse like a double Great Lake, the result of elevation, pressure, and alien magic, we said, one day this will be a tourist destination. Defiant in this translation of primordial energy, all the world in a drop of frozen water. The singular ability to turn phenomenon into postcards and magnets is ours alone, as if the hawk invites us to check out the view in Yellowstone. As if the coyote offers to guide us down the Grand Canyon. Oh, stop there for a photo op, he says. Stupid creatures. We stare through miracles, searching for profit. We ignore the prophetic, the mind-boggling math of light years, how a pool of light will drain into shadow. Fractals become murmurations, become the liquid velvet of winter sky, where we raise silent prayers to slumbering deities. As if existence is box-shaped. As if what we can hold is worth the holding. As if a cupped hand will collect anything but snow. Thank you, thank you. Should we go next? How about, let's read this poem that was recently published in this really, really awesome magazine that I have to plug, because that cover art though, it's awesome. So the Dollhouse magazine is such a cool publication and just a beautiful work of this collective art and literature. And it is this intersectional feminist magic. Very, very cool. So this is a poem. Actually, I'll do two of the poems of mine that they picked up recently. It is available for purchase on their website. They're awesome. Like, they deserve all the support and all the credit. This poem is called Apropos of Nothing. And it's in parts. So I always go back and forth between whether I'm gonna like read the numbers or just kind of roll through them, but I'll read the numbers just for the sake of, I don't know, I'm just doing it. Apropos of Nothing. 1. They tell me that I won't be fully woman until childbirth is etched into my skin. I disappoint them. These contours are vacant. My core is tacos. 2. If you can crush yourself in your own fingers, then you know about becoming. 3. You, little girl, you are woman now and always you are bird. I am a wild thing. I am bare. Unbraid my spine and crack open these ribs. Gnarled branches of tree grow between breasts and out, splayed fingers grasping skyward. I tried to bloom. 4. A stranger told me, apropos of nothing, that I would have beautiful offspring. 5. Layered in the fabric of our bodies are bones that never stop their dreaming. 6. 3 friends announced their pregnancies this week. 3 more posted newborn photos, and I drunk texted my ex, just saying hi. 7. I press palms into my hollow abdomen. I am a waxen, stony cavern, a defiant sponge. 8. I am in love with something that does not exist. 9. Sister, cup your hands around my womb, wring me out like laundry, juice me like a swollen grapefruit, clean my airways, and swat me hard into this red world. Tony, how am I doing on time?
Great. You got about 6 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll read the second poem that they published, which is one that I wrote in response to a question. And the question is the title. Someone asked me this during my first pregnancy, and I was like, what? And so I wrote it and just kind of played. And so it has a little bit of a different tone than, it doesn't matter, but it was playful, and I never really expected it to like find a home in my manuscript or in any magazine or anything ever. And then the Dollhouse was like, we love it, we'll take it. And I thought that was really cool. So it's called What to Do with That Placenta. Because someone asked me like, what are you gonna do with your placenta? And it had never crossed my mind until that moment. So what to do with that placenta? Nothing. Treat it as any discarded medical tissue, appendix, wisdom tooth, tumor, biohazard to be disposed of in some medically appropriate way. What do they do with it anyway? Dehydrate, pulverize, encapsulate the bizarre little organ and ingest daily, hoping to rebalance hormones, hoping to ward off psychosis. Bury it in the earth, a place of honor beneath a maple tree or rose bush. Life-sustaining and mysterious, it shall make something else grow now. Art! This is real. Press the squishy mass into archival quality paper, acid-free, to preserve its imprint, a reminder of what bound you to, a reminder of those strange private months when you were both separate and joined. Frame this, hang it above the crib. DIY facial cream, rich in antioxidants and amino acids, smearing placenta on my face can apparently rejuvenate my skin and make it glow. Cube and cook, placenta fajitas, placenta chili, placenta meatloaf, placenta jerky, anything goes. Some just gulp it down raw like sushi. A dollop of wasabi and soy sauce, pickled ginger to make it palatable, or blend, masking with fruit and yogurt. Add chia seeds or honey if you like. The color from strawberries and kale, not my own body, no, just a protein smoothie. I recall my cat, birthing her litter, licking clean their tiny sealed eyes, nudging into motion the mewling little bodies. Without ceremony or hesitation, she gobbled it up. I too am carnivorous. I too am mammal. Let's see. I will read. I think I've got time for a couple more. Yell at me if I'm wrong about that, Tony.
How long they are?
I know. I'll read this one. It's a little bit longer, and then if there's time, I'll sneak in another short one or two. This one is called Backyard Rhapsody. It's for my daughter, Liv, because she is, and was when she was very small. Oh no, there she is. A helper in the garden, and by helper I mean she just trampled the plants and destroyed everything. So here we go. Can you be quiet for a second?
Nope, I cannot.
It's fitting. Backyard Rhapsody for Liv. There's a hippopotamus in the alley, wolves in the garage. The dragonflies draw circles across the sky, streaks of supersonic vibration, humming along, dreaming along, mostly blue, mostly not blue, mostly nothing in color, mostly nothing in color. I confess I am reluctant. I confess I don't know what to do with it, but green is our backdrop, and there is white and shadow, texture, lush and wandering like a jazz riff, like a vine, like blue. Delphinium in blue, rhapsody in blue. Tell me true, do blueberries cross-pollinate? They do. Listen for the wandering piano, the swell and crust, the riffs, the blue notes, the jazz. We dance under a paper moon, lucid in black and white, or maybe blue. There is red sometimes, a bright carmine, but mostly blue or bluish, no pink or yellow. The green is not green, orange is untrue. Bluebells, cockle shells, easy ivy over. Blue hyacinth, fragrant blue plantain lily, dusty leaves, salvia, the purpled indigo of the iris stretching into the blue sky like a fist, like a mouth on a long, thin neck. A bug, like a horse with 6 legs, gallops down the stalk and disappears into a wormhole, I presume. What's the story, Morning Glory? Her dark eyes shimmer impossible things. The cars are flying. The house is made of goldfish. No, butterflies, and I am a giant. We are birds. We are unicorns. You're a monster. I'm a monster. She is shrieking, gleeful and growling.
That's not a good pull-up. I hear monsters.
A wildflower in the garden. a gnome, laughing the maniacal laugh of lunatics and children. Her mouth, smeared popsicle red, drips like watercolor, stains the ever-spinning blue dress. We are huge and tiny in this dream dervish. And there you have it with the commentary in real time. Tony, do I have like 1 minute left? Am I out?
If you got a real quick one, go ahead.
I got a quick one. I'll close with this one. This is called Lullaby. Don't tell me you don't exist. All I can eat is toast. The smell of eggs makes me gag, and the tiredness in my bones is otherworldly. I can't know yet. It's not a given. That's true of many things. I know many things. I do not know about tomorrow. I do not know about forgiveness or what is on the other side of questions, but I can promise you space and more toast. I can promise to minimize the euphemisms and baby talk. I won't presume a blank slate when you will arrive with so much life. You might hate it at first, the bright lights and crisp air, but you will warm to it. Your would-be sister keeps imagining you, keeps saving things in a special box for you. I don't know you yet, but you already belong. It will be my hands that hold you first when you thunder toward the light and wake to clanging and neon laughter. Thank you.
Woo! Yeah!
Great job.
Crushed it!
Actually,
Really
Nice.
good.
how much did you have to pay the little one to pop in like that?
Perfect timing.
Nothing. It's just what she does, especially in the middle of class.
That was perfect. Sounds like somebody else I know when he was that.
All right, hold on one sec here. And Ashley, go ahead and unmute. So, when did you start doing poetry?
Well, I definitely wrote my fair share of soppy teenage poems, and always sort of did the whole journaly thing. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would like share it with people. But when I was a few years into my teaching career, actually teaching writing and then teaching poetry really reminded me how much I loved it, and just sort of reawakened that. So there was a pretty long hiatus where I didn't write much throughout college and everything. I did a little bit, but it was never shared, and that was probably for the best. But yeah, as a I don't know, a young teacher, I started to see the world a little bit differently and connected with poetry in ways that I hadn't before. So I don't know, I came across this poem by Tony Hoagland, A Color of the Sky. Some of you are nodding, you know it. I fell in love with that poem and what he does with language in that poem, and the word blossom of foam just blew my mind. And there was something about it that just pushed me to write again and to maybe do it in earnest, and then maybe share it with people.
That's neat. And you know, I've had the pleasure of like reading some of your students' work too, and like I can't imagine getting surrounded with that every day. Well, not every day, but you know what I mean. I'm sure they turn in some clunkers too. Everybody does.
Well, they do.
So do you have any aspirations to actually put out a full-length book?
I sure do. It's been something in the making for several years, and you know, obviously as the kind of the capstone of my MFA program, I had, you know, my full manuscript, and I've been revising it for 100 years, it feels like, and I think it's close to being ready, and I think it might just be time to like let go and send it out there instead of obsessing over every last thing. So
yeah,
I'm looking for a home for it, is what I'll say.
Good. I think that, yeah, I mean, probably every book I put out probably could have used more editing, but still, you should put it out there. Well, I thank you so much for being here. And for those who don't know, Ashley is sort of she's the second helper. So Trinity's my main assistant who can't be here this evening. So Ashley's helping me, and she is always sort of in the background helping too with Poets and Pints stuff. So thank you so much for being a feature on the show. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're a friend of mine, and enjoy the rest of the show.
I will. Thanks for having me on. It's really fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, let's keep rolling along here. I got to stand up for this part. Them's the rules. All righty. So next up on the docket is Dominique Jones. Dominique Jones is a multiversity artist and mentor who has been published as a spoken word artist. He's been placed in poetry slams, as well as featured in local events and podcasts, Quintessential Living, based in DC. From the Twin Cities, but artistically born in Wabasha, Minnesota, he has been grateful to compose, dance, and act across many stages in Minnesota and Iowa. Sorry, I read that sentence all clunky. He also has choreographed for local musicals and dance groups, as well as teach classes for both youth and adults alike. He was honored to be named one of the first U.S. Bank Future Leaders in 2018. You can find him on Facebook at Dom Jones Art, and on Instagram at Xenamir, which is Xenam as in Mary, EIR. Everybody, please welcome Dominique Jones. And you are unmuted. Great.
Thanks for having me here. I'm super excited. I've only performed at Poets and Pints one other time as part of the open mic, so I'm super grateful to be here to do a feature. So thanks for having me, and I'm just going to jump right in because I have a lot of pieces that I want to try to squeeze in, and starting the timer. And I'm going to start with a piece called We Haven't Met Before. I watched him from a distance, watched as he listened to his heart, as he tuned his brain to his goals. He loved how curiosity fit like a glove that allowed him to hold on tight to the reins of adventure. I observed as he prepared creativity like the 5-star meal that it was supposed to be, not just in the apartment of his mind, but also in the restaurant of community. A wealthy man who is never too rich to give or too poor to help himself. He found the greatest wealth by investing his heart in the business of friendship. He didn't double dip his integrity in the sauce of progress because it was in the process that he considered himself blessed to count his blessings, all while addressing each move so that he could pin down his dreams, skewer his actions behind his ideas so that he won't make the blunder of failing to make an impact. And I felt that in the moment our glances made contact. We haven't met before, but you've explored this jungle of identity like it's a trek you've taken several times before. Built boundaries to outline the trajectory of your intentions. I couldn't contain my apprehension when you told me that I too would make this journey. You aren't yearning to find love in the wrong places, rather trying to bring love into all the right spaces, because no one should find being cared for to be some kind of lost oasis. And I wonder how many times you got lost before you finally found the love for yourself. How many insecurities you had to lift off your shoulders before you could properly stand up for yourself. Because out of all the animals in this jungle, the one I am most afraid of is the one I cannot see, but paralyzes me nonetheless. We haven't met before, but could you be me? Thank you. This next piece is a piece called Body Language. The scriptures that this body has written on my skin have reminded me that our bodies learn to speak long before our voices learn to give shape to our words. Our bodies showed us how to pull a smile out of the hat of excitement before we even knew that this thing thought to be magic was a wonder known as happiness. Think how your first steps led to journeys and overcoming and learning just how quickly one can become many. Memories reaching deeper than any well, and as Danny Solis could tell, the body remembers. The body remembers. The body remembers. This body remembers how to become home to the many cells of surrender. Immersing itself in the dialect of self-impairment, this body remembers the echoing words never said, but delivered by the voices disguised as care. Sore muscles now bear the burden of aches and groans of the untreated stress to hug the love that isn't there. This body repeats the motions of how to wring out the skin of the miseries of experience in an attempt to force this body into the ideal shape or size, or to reorganize its sense of masculinity because I no longer agree with what it implies. It tries. Listens to every word like a waitress taking an order that they know they want to get right. Every complexity accounted for, even if it means being left perplexed, but it won't be vexed as long as they leave you satisfied. This body remembers the restaurant called Body Image, filled with the many crazy orders I tried to give it. I thought they would be livid because I wasn't even speaking their language. Instead, they brought every plate they could, and I misunderstood. Telling them it wasn't the plates that I wanted, this body patiently waited in place as if to say, please give me the grace of just taking one bite. This body knew when to be less than bold because it didn't want to be told that it didn't belong. So I gave in. And that's when I noticed this body remembers so much, but it never forgot its first words. I love you. Not when it was hungry, not when it was hurting, not when it was crying. This body pulled an endless supply of joy from pain and said it as though it still had everything to gain. I love you. I love you. You see, this body never forgot how to love, but it forgot how to be loved. And maybe it's about time to remind them. Okay. All right. All right, this next piece is called The Fairy Tales We Never Heard. We grew up in this world without magic, using fairy tales to make whimsy and mitigate the power of the tragic. Imagination became the manifestation for ghouls, fairies, and the best libraries, to become conduits to instill life's lessons onto us and explore our wonder and laughter. In our world, the spirit of society possessed Black bodies and stripped us of our smiles. It grew tired of our jokes, so it muted our laughter. Left us searching for happily ever afters, tucked into the matter of materials that didn't even matter. So now that we have cried enough tears to sink the ships of our hearts into the depths of our anger, can we have our smiles back? Exorcise this demon that has been leeching off the magic of happiness that makes our humanity. So no more rituals using the tears of sonless mothers or daughterless fathers. No more relying on the mana of our misery, as I hope you can look again more blissfully at the enchantments our joy can carry into a room. We have to negate the need to placate the positive power of the Black child's smile. We have to bloom the beauty that is the Black human's heart. There has been so much magic we have been holding back from the fairy tale of our reality. And no story is worth telling when some of its chapters aren't fully written, but every story has a soul worthy of being heard. So can we key in on the voices that so frequently get pegged as villains and listen to the tales of how the caged bird sings free? Or how Brandon Leak was the first man to bring poetry to the first place spot in AGT, and believe me, if you have found yourself laughing at GIFs online, it's about time we give credit to the one named Lisa Galofter, who drew the line on the map that led to the treasure of its existence. So with this, notice that these are just a few ways a little bit of magic can go a long way to shifting on how we think and how we feel. So can we open our hearts to the magic we've been missing? Can we cast the spells from the mana of our compassion that the world has been wishing for? And start writing the chapters no one could write alone. But we can all smile while doing it. Okay, we got 8 minutes now. I think I will do this piece next. This one is a piece called Play. At least once in any given lifespan, most of us have been called silly, crazy, immature, or just plain simply called out for not fitting into the squared off definition of adulthood. Now let the light in on the situation. Notice how the shadows of deceit leak from the pores of responsibility to the point that the closest thing to a sense of duty is that of which plops in the toilet. Now let's take a poll. How many of you laughed because that's where silliness took you? How many of you let out a chuckle because you're trying to detain the inner child within you? How many of you scoffed out loud or even in your mind because within your matured bones, play chimes there in you? Play. A concept where imaginations replaced the PlayStations. Playing Princess meant more than just a way to express, but was also the key to success. Things were something known as simple. Simply friendship. Simply heroic. Simply be. And just by simply being who we wanted to be, we were always simply learning. If we weren't, how else would we know how to take on the monsters under our beds, or even the ones we created in our own heads? We grew up with the ideals in mind that we would eventually change ourselves like we would change our clothes. And just as though we were characters in a video game, we swap out our blanket of sweet dreams, our crown of creative royalties, and our cape of awesomeness. Our rare items for the common suit of adulthood. And somewhere along this transition, we gained the perks of bills and taxes buried underneath the pounds of boredom. And then while in a childlike tantrum, we have the nerve to ask ourselves, where did our childhood go? Well, if there's anything I've learned from video games, it's that you never forget the basics. And it sounds funny that we refuse to forget how to do our job, or how we cease to forget the facts dwelling within the caves of textbooks. Yet in this game of life, this task called living, we write a huge equation on a whiteboard to find the solution of how to live life and erase our early concepts of fun because we thought it took up space. It's like a joke we tell ourselves and then take too far, saying we can achieve more by parting with the memories of days before. Then, in my mind, I think if we want to afflate the world, it takes more than just wisdom and intellect, but also wisdom and creativity. It's within a learning mind and a nurtured heart that we discover where in which the soul resides, in a state of harmony, like yin and yang, where we let our adult tantrums be that of creativity and not of frustration. True understanding. True understanding is reached when we bring out that chalkboard and start brainstorming in rainbows, because each part of you, from your maturity to your impurities to the time you wanted to make yourself have telepathy, are all their own colors within a rainbow. And let's face it, no one wants to see it go to waste. All right, I have time for one more. And in the nature that every poet so far has done something about space, I'm changing my last poem. So my closing poem will be Black Holes and Guiding Stars. I used to dream of being an astronaut, voyaging through constellations towards destinations of the unknown. But as I've grown, I was phoned home and instead got caught on the course of discourse by the coarse expectations life gave me with no remorse. Had me thinking about love, which had me thinking about heartache, which had me thinking about stress. Left me thinking about money, which left me thinking about stress. Thinking depression, thinking stress, thinking you can't and won't impress, thinking you are nothing. Thinking about how life made me want to just blast off in a way, which leads me to say there are about 250 billion stars in the Milky Way, and the average distance between them is 30 trillion miles. The point I want to make here is that our minds have the power to travel through the expanse of the universe, yet we get stuck in the void tucked behind our eyes. And I say void because we have employed our negative thoughts to be the captain of the ship navigating the universe of our minds without telling it where to go. So it chooses what it knows. Towards the asteroid belt of stresses and woes, we've lost our sight of guiding stars as goals and question our worth, our image, and become a stowaway on our own ship called truth. And left to drift, the mind just slips so easily through the stream of consciousness that we come out of warp drive with warped minds and find this black hole of our personality that we can't turn away from. And like one of our pets, we fed this, bred this dog of our attention. We trained this way of noticing every little agitation, but we blame this life for giving us a not so great spot on the universe. We don't need our lives to change. We need our universe to change. How we look at the 37.2 trillion cells of our body. Because if you only zoom in on the gaps in between, of course it feels like sometimes even darkness gleams. So zoom out. Cast out the doubt that you can't find what light your smile makes, what comfort your words can bring, and what wounds your presence can tend to. The weight of the world is only crushing when we wait on the world to bring the stars to us. And yes, there are laws to this place, but this place is your space, so take command of your ship. And if on your trip you still can't find the light, use your might to pull every award, every victory, every creation, sensation, exclamation, friendship. And you know, I brushed my teeth today. Pull it all toward you as a way to say there are 37.2 trillion cells in the universe of my body, and I'll be damned if not a single one of them shines. Thank you.
Perfect. Love the last one.
Yeah. Woo! Really good. Really
Thank
good.
you.
All right, let me do the thing here. And then Dominique, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, I can.
Oh, I did that. That was my fault. Okay, so first of all, well done, very well done. I'm glad to finally have you as a feature. So when did you really get into this whole poetry thing?
I actually started I started writing in like elementary school, but I switched to like poetry specifically in the middle of middle school, but I didn't get serious into it until probably college actually.
All right. And did you start right in with performance poetry, or did you do more book stuff, for lack of a better term, when you started?
I started out doing book stuff, but when I got serious, it kind of just molded into performance poetry more so.
Was there somebody that kind of pushed you that way, or was it a performance that you went to?
It was a performance that I went to. I was actually not supposed to be there. I was too young, but my my mentor did a very strong positive negative and brought me into this event where there was some really talented performance poets, and I was hooked. I actually like wrote a piece that night and performed it. They let me go on stage and perform it, and it was so much fun and kind of stuck ever since.
The similar thing happened to me with the exception of I didn't go on that night and perform it, but I saw some performance poets and I was like, oh, that looks like fun. Whereas just reading poetry at a podium just didn't seem like a lot of fun to me. And unfortunately, I need things to be fun or I'm not that interested. So do you have any books out?
So I've only been published in an anthology, actually back in elementary school. And that's been the next goal of mine, is to make a full book. I've written more than enough at this point. So that's kind of my next goal, is just to figure out how to make it happen.
So what's a title of a book you wish that you had stolen, or that you wish you thought of, I guess is a better way.
And I wish I thought of,
Mm-hmm.
Probably The Basement in My Attic by Shane Koizen, who was the person who made it. Really cool, talented performance poet. I got to see him live once, and
I got to see him live, and then I got to go have beers and food with him afterwards. He is a really, really cool guy. Like, it's not just a stage thing. Like, that guy is the nicest person in the world. I have nothing but great things to say about Shane Koizen. That guy's amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. And again, as always, you can find this show, everyone, and if you want to watch his performance again, or Ashley's, or Valeria's so far, we have a YouTube channel and the stuff will be there. So make sure you go there. But we're not done yet. We still have another feature for the evening. And so now I have to go to my feature podium over here. Okay. This is way more fun when I have a stage. I'm just kidding. This is fun. Paige Riehl is the author of the full-length poetry collection Suspension by Terrapin Books in 2018, and the poetry chapbook Blood Ties by Finishing Line Press in 2014. Her poetry has appeared in numerous publications such as Artful Dodge, Crab Orchard Review, Waterstone Review, Portland Review, and The Meridian. She was a finalist for the 2017 Lindquist and Venom Prize for Poetry with Milkweed Editions for her poetry manuscript, winner of the 2012-2013 Loft Mentor Series in Poetry, and was a 2016 and 2018 Pushcart Prize nominee. She is the poetry editor for Midway Journal and has served as a poetry mentor for the Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop, and is an English faculty member at Anoka Ramsey Community College, where she's the chair of the Two Rivers Poetry Series. You can find her on her website at paigeriehl.com or on Twitter at Paige Riehl. Everybody, please welcome Paige Riehl.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Ashley, and everybody for being here on a Wednesday night. It's been really lovely to hear all of your voices and just so much power in the room. And if you watch the inauguration today, right, fantastic young poet today. And so I was thinking about just the power of language and how it has been so much abused over a few years here, and how we need to reclaim it. But I thought I would maybe start with a poem that I wrote for, well, not really for, but about Sean Spicer. Do you remember Sean Spicer, Trump's first press secretary? There have been a lot of them, but he was the most memorable for me because I just saw the way that he was manipulating language. So this is a little look back, but I'm really interested, David, in this idea of looking forward to the future and all the hope that we have now. So this is called The Press Secretary. I wrote it shortly after Sean Spicer took over. The press secretary. He has eaten too much. His stomach clenches while his mind juggles words. Drop denotations, manipulate semantics, practice hasty generalizations. He toggles between thought and sleight of hand. Outside the cafe is the sharp smell of something rotting. He imagines an unholy kitchen, salting and buttering words, burning their edges. The words are fatty and smoke. The press secretary considers the blue sky, the whiteness of buildings. He mulls meanings, dreams a cold fog of semantic satiation. He chews the world. He has emptied his plate. I should have done a series of press secretary poems for, all the other ones who came after. I'm gonna kind of, like Ashley was saying, my poems I've chosen for tonight kind of jump all over. This one is a little bit of a different tone, but I went to a poetry workshop at St. Olaf College a few years ago and saw at the same time there was a group of high school girls that were there practicing the color guard. Have you ever seen these girls doing color guard with these fake white guns and they're spinning them in the air? And I'd never seen anything like it as they were practicing. And I was just thinking about young women and everything they face and kind of the strange symbolism of that moment. This is called color guard practice. The leader points the muzzle at her heart, demonstrates how to swing the rifle's butt in a slow arc above their heads. The warm plastic nestled in the soft place beneath the collarbone. In short shorts and tank tops, long hair piled loosely, the 8 teenage girls toss, flick, and flourish. They worry about missing, the gun slicing bare midriffs and legs. Beneath the green maples, they learn to move fast, step back, sidestep. They want applause for their beauty and synchronicity. Unanimous guns pointed in rhythm at their young bodies. They do not understand danger. How can they consider battle when they call the muzzle a nose? When their guns have no trigger, no need for a safety. Each barrel's silver stripe is a mirror flashing in the sun. Their rifles are already the color of surrender. They will learn how live bodies age, will learn how quick hands become lifelong defense against hurried men. There are no rewards for a clumsy girl. Dominic had pointed out that many of you had read a poem about with space in it. So I actually have one in my book, kind of. The title is The Space Between States. I wasn't going to read this one, but it fits. So this is a poem that was inspired by my grandmother as she was kind of getting toward the end of her life and started sometimes imagining things or seeing things in the room. The space between states. She stares out the window. All this time, this space between yesterday's solid rock and tomorrow's bowl of sadness floats like dandelion fluff between us. There is space on the phone line. Some call it static, but it isn't so. Dark synapses between memories. Space between the real or the hallucinated or the heavenly. No one is sure which. She sees a little girl in the room, says, "She found me again." Her finger points to an empty corner. Autumn is over, yet she lingers, and someone enters her space with a handful of pills. That was kind of a love poem to my grandma. Not a very tone of love, but I'll move into more of a love poem. This is called The Dreaming Woman, and it's kind of divided into little 3-line separated vignettes almost. The Dreaming Woman. You are not an injured angel, side bleeding, not a muscled demon, finger curled, just a man who had the beautiful hands of Jesus. Oh, anti-miracle, oh, blind hunger, what freedom is a yesterday unfinished? In my mind, we become 2 swirling insects. I impale myself on these thoughts, as if the act of thrusting myself from your memory would force you from my blood, my cells. Forgetting is spinning the globe backwards. I pile the memory pieces of you on a plate. The dishwasher won't close. The water is cold. 15 years and I'm translated into an unknown language. 15 years and the water that touched our hips has circled the globe. It waits for us near Malaga. Do you taste older? A certain shade of gold? Gold pears, cheese gold with the rind of living? I hid your picture years ago, and now the shoebox is empty. Somewhere a branch brushes your shoulder. Under moonlight, a tree drops her dampness on your cheek. The morning sun. You are lost to me, a chair thrown in the ocean. I am a series of intentional accidents. Each day is a dry pine needle. I am filling myself with old tickets and olives and outdated calendars. Sometimes I lay with my cheek against hardwood. There is breathing in the wood. It enters me like a splinter. I would not misplace you again, would label your neck in black felt tip. So do I have time for one more, Tony?
Oh yeah, you got time for, well, you got about 7 minutes or so.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Several of the poems in my book have to do with adoption. I am a child of adoption, kind of. My father adopted me, and my husband and I adopted a daughter, and it was a long, intense process with, so many layers and complexities to consider. And so this is called post-adoption, the naming. 1, girl of so many names, written horizontally and vertically, rearranged by trembling hands. Each is a truth, a blanket to wrap or fling into the fire. 2, we wish no harm. We as birth mother, foster mother, adoptive mother, we separated by black oceans and wrinkled calendars. We weighted by our labels, such heavy coats. We wish you the past as a compass, wish you today as a curtain opening, wish you decades in sprawling cities, in languages, in moonlight, in oceans. 3, 3 mothers' arms like flowering pears, There are so many ways to view this, but who am I to say? I've heard the fury from others, infertile white bitch, yet I come from the place where it is easiest to be happy. 4. In 10 years, 20, perhaps contented afternoons, perhaps slammed doors, the voice like a hammer, words, lightning bolts in a drought. I will offer you water from my cupped hands. So, as some of you probably know, like when you're putting a book together, it's funny how some will be poems that have just been around for such a long time and they're revised over and over and over again. And even as it's going to print, you're like, wait, I'm just going to change a couple things. And then some are really new. And so a lot of the poems in my book kind of span a huge range of time. And there's one that's kind of close to my heart because I won $1,000 with this poem, which, like, as a poet, what? Good, that's gonna pay for my submissions for a couple of years, you know? So I'm gonna read that one. This is one of the oldest poems in my book. And again, about that grandmother that I adored so much. And it's called Edie Watches the Tsunami from Her Bed at Life Care Rehabilitation Center in Las Vegas, March 2011. Through the window was the concrete parking lot. Cars came and went as if the drivers couldn't decide whether to stay or go. She didn't belong here. Wanted her lazy boy and trailer, wanted her legs to hold her up. The diaper made her mad. She flipped the television control looking for the weather, finding nightly news and the angry wave sweeping 500 miles per hour across Japan's coast, swallowing houses, flipping boats over like bars of soap. Without her glasses, it all looked blurry, as if someone had wiped a hand across a wet painting, smeared it all to brown, the color of dirty diapers. She couldn't see clearly enough to wonder about the people who must only have had seconds to realize their own forecast. The ocean rising up as if the world were quickly tilted, death rushing toward them like a train. She had lived on this earth so long, 94 winters, 94 summers. She wondered if it was her time, said she had other plans, but who is in control after all? The sun shone brightly and nothing had changed really, except that maybe this was it. Maybe it was the beginning of the end. Maybe right then something began rolling quietly across the desert. I think I'll end with one more poem here. This is another adoption poem. It's called Adoption Becoming the Verbs. In Seoul, I broke a fish with my hands after the waiter demonstrated, his thumbs cracking off the head. The fish was dry and whole. My teeth crunched tiny bones. The waiter smiled, so I smiled too. Today, daughter, you watch my mouth. Practice words that start with L. Louder, listen, love. Your language is beautiful, a frost etching on the window. I am a lazy failure. Annyeonghaseyo. I am nailing shut your future. Mianheo. The moon is blindfolded, backlighting our book reading. It is difficult to write what I know you have lost, are losing, what I hope you have gained, will gain. One day I will explain that your father and I never lived in a house built of certainty. We wandered as if lost, signing papers handed to us at every corner, writing checks when asked. Some people hissed, others applauded. Neither felt right. We considered skin colors. Love, is it not? Some said, maybe not. Worry blossomed like a crocus at the base of our skulls. So many adults in 2 countries chose for you, handed you like a delicate sculpture from one pair of hands to another, and then into mine. We have already crossed a deep ocean. Now, your petite fingers point at the letters you love. Quick learner, close the book and we become the verbs. Holding, loving, your small body a warm question mark. My mommy, my mommy. You touch my face. Say it again, as if to remind yourself, as if to remind me. I smile, so you smile too. I think of words to describe you. Lovely, light, my love. Thank you so much.
Paige.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very well done. Very, very well done. All right. Let me do the thing here. And then, Paige, will you unmute yourself, please?
Yes.
All right. So what made you want to join into this whole poetry fun house? Start writing poetry in the first place.
Oh boy, like everybody who's responded so far, I started tinkering with it when I was really young. And did anyone when you were a kid, or did your family get Guidepost magazines?
I did not.
So my family got Guidepost, and it was always on the back of the toilet. That's where it was stored. And so they would occasionally have poems in Guidepost, and that was really the only place that I knew nothing about poetry or where it was published or whatever. So I read some poems in that and decided I was going to send a poem to Guidepost magazine. And I did. And I had maybe 10 years old. And, it was rhyming and kind of terrible. And I wish I would have kept this. I had no idea what a big deal it was. But I got a handwritten response from someone at Guidepost who took the time to say, this is so great that you're trying poetry. Here's a little suggestion. Maybe write about things you know about, because my poem was written, in the voice of a street kid who lived in the big city, and I was a farm girl who lived outside a town of 400 people. So I had no clue what I was writing about, but it was great advice. And I took it, and I did write a little bit as an undergrad. I got a creative writing minor, but really got dedicated to it when I was back in school, getting my first graduate degree.
So how drastically did your poetry change once you moved to the city?
Well, honestly, I started writing some, Nancy Drew type mystery novels after I got my rejection from Guidepost. So I put the poetry away for a while. So I think it's definitely been changing. I've been in the cities now for more than 20 years. So the cities is my home. I don't feel like a small town girl anymore, I guess. But yeah, it's all a process. I'm sure everyone here who writes can look back at older poems and kind of like cringe lovingly.
Yep. Yeah. It's I don't mind the ones I wrote as a kid, actually. For the age, I think they're fine. It's the teenage ones that are a nightmare to read, because you just like your whole world's falling apart, and you just read it now and you're like, oh, you don't know anything at all yet.
Right. I don't have that insight.
So I like this question I asked Dominique, and I'll ask you. What's a big book title you wish you thought of, since you already have books out?
Oh boy. Well, one that pops to mind is actually written by a friend of mine. Gretchen Marquette has a book called Mayday, which I think just has so many layers of meaning and could apply, to the whole country, to a person individually, to different collective groups. I mean, we're all maybe sending out Mayday signals. And her book is a little bit more the Maydays, the actual May Day celebration. She's a huge advocate of that. But I love titles that can have kind of some layers like that. And I think picking a book title is really hard. Mine went through several different iterations, and it was sent out under different titles. When it was accepted for publication, it was originally called Wait. But then, my publisher said, I don't know about that title. And I said, I'm so glad you're saying that, because I don't know about that title either. And I kept thinking, if it's on the bookshelf and it's saying wait, what's the message being sent to a potential book buyer? Like, wait, don't buy this book. Yeah. So I'm glad in the end we changed it. And we went back to a title that it had been, which was Suspension, way back in a really early draft. So sometimes you just come back to where you started and it is the right place.
Yeah, the process of naming a book is always I find that it's usually an interesting story, because my first book I did with two other people, and we were kicking around names because we knew we wanted it to be learning from our mistakes was essentially the theme of the book. But we thought, that title sucks. Like, no, you can't call it Learning from Your Mistakes. And so one of the guys came in and said, like, how about Ramblings, Sucker Punches, and Epiphanies? And we're like, we know you like sucker punches. That's what you like. So then we called it Sucker Punch Wisdom. And it was a fun, like,
that's great,
stacking up on like how we're going to come up with things. So yeah, it's always fun. And I know you signed up to be on the show a long time ago. I'm glad I finally got you on. I'm sorry it took so long.
Oh, no worries.
But
I remember way back in the day, I don't know how long ago it was when I came to my first one, and wish we could all be together, like raising a pint at the.
Yeah, well, and as soon as we can go live, we'll be right back at Sisfis again. Please come to the show. The show is always, as fun as this is, the show is 10 times more fun when it's live. So I thank you for being here, and we're going to go to break here in just a moment. I want to just say a few things here. One, next month is Black History Month, and we're bringing in Mac House again. They did the show last year, and they're doing the show again this year. In fact, I just got a text from October, who's the host, and the people on the show will be Ms. Coco, A.K. Chanel, EJ Gray Matter, Mercedes, Tom G, and Heaven Mountain will be the 5 poets that will be featured. I'm very excited to have Mac House doing Black History Month. I also want to remind everybody that we are part of Cracked Walnut, which is a nonprofit organization, part of the League of Minnesota Poets. So if you feel like you can donate, that would be great. If you go to our website, which is crackedwalnut.com, you can donate right on the front page there. We are a 501c3, so it is a tax-deductible donation, but we would appreciate it. So we're going to go to break. We'll come back just after 9, and then we're going to do our open mic, and you still have time to sign up, and order will be random, 1 poem, 2 minutes or less. Features, if you can stick around, I'd love it if you did. If you can't, I understand, especially you, Valeria. I know it's an hour later there. So, but everybody, we'll see you in just a few.
Meet me tonight in dreamland under the silvery moon. Meet me tonight in dreamland where love
of sweet roses bloom. Come with the love light gleaming in your dear eyes of blue. Meet me in dreamland, sweet dreamy dreamland. There let my dreams come true. Meet me tonight in dreamland under the silvery moon. Meet me tonight in dreamland where love's sweet roses bloom. Come with the love light gleaming in your dear eyes of blue. Meet me in dreamland, sweet dreamy dreamland. There let my dreams come true.
Whoa, when my baby smiles at me, my heart goes roaming to paradise. And when my baby smiles at me, there's such a wonderful light in her eyes, the kind of light that means just a love, the kind of love, that brings sweet harmony. I sigh, I cry, oh, it's just a bit of heaven when my baby smiles at me. Ah. What the kind of light, the light, the light that means just a love, the kind of love, that brings sweet harmony. Talk to me. I sigh. Well, I sigh. I cry. Well, I cry. It's just a bit of heaven when my baby smiles at me.
When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morn in spring. In the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. And when Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright. Take these cupid eyes of blue, let them lead you for diversion on a little fall excursion from the old love to the new. Oh, señor et señorita, des doigts de la Carmencita, acceptez ces violettes, c'est du bonheur qu'on achète, le bon Dieu vous le rendra. Señor, pour vos señoritas, prenez-moi les fleurs que voilà, pour faire éclore un sourire, pour parler sans rien se dire, rien ne vaut ma Violetta. Ultraviolets. Take these cupid eyes of blue, let them lead you for diversion on a little fall excursion from the old love to the new. La da 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 da, la da 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 da, la da.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Again, this is Poets and Pints number 68. What's kind of crazy is show number 70 will also be my 2-year anniversary in March. So that's kind of being the host. So we're going to jump right into the open mic here. I've got the sheet handy here and randomized it. And so the first person, I don't think he actually jumped onto the call. Just a moment here. I'm trying to remember how to work my own computer. Jason Reberg, you are not here, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, moving along. Next is Ciara Dahl. You're here, right?
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi.
Give us a
How
poem.
you doing?
Good, good, good.
Good. Okay. I've got a poem to read. It's called What Women Are Made Of. So let's do it. People love the story of the diamond, but what about a pearl? Born in the mouth of the living, submerged in water, enclosed by a dull shell, but on the inside luminescent. The mollusk moves about the ocean floor, the sand and salt, leaving it scratched. When we find it, we strip it, smash it, part it, leaving their sanctuary shattered in pieces, broken shell and rainbow metallic shards, halves, torn apart and snapped at the spine. For a diamond, you just need pressure and fire. Some women are the product of forceful heat, still glowing crystallized warmth. They may not awaken suffocating on earth, breathing underwater like a pearl, but they will reflect the light around them in brilliant prisms. Sometimes a woman will scratch herself into your mind, and you can feel they were forged in torment, and carried in their skin are the scars from sewn again pieces. You'll find them caged, begging for air like a pearl choking without water. The most beautiful love letter from the ocean is a pearl, forged in creamy salt water upon rocks, lain and forgotten and crushed into pieces. Some women undress themselves into pieces, She drowns like a shore-bound pearl, gasping in the heaviness of air, missing the light seawater that held and itched her protective shell, dismissing any loneliness. Land has ways to hurt so much more. But we like our pain easy and simple, new, shimmering. We must remember not all women can appear to be new and shiny at all times. They are actually walking and talking crumbled pieces of unpressurized rocks. There will always be pressure and fire to breathe down their necks and steal their oxygen. It's time to close the mouths, full of stabbing words scratched into the shells women hide in. By the time they rise, they will all be glowing, glimmering, pieces formed from living, leaving them broken and permanently scratched, fire burning, choking the beautiful, trying to clutch a single pearl. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right. Moving right along. Moving right along. All right. Next up, we have Malcolm Cook. You should be able to unmute yourself. I see you. Malcolm.
I'm here.
All right. Your turn.
Hey, excuse me. I'm on the road here. I'm in Kansas City. I'm driving along, but I just pulled over.
Okay.
And thank you for hosting this. Let me bring up my words. I got my phone out and everything. Here we go. Got a short poem called Tear Down House. There will be no next family to live within this house's walls. No beleaguered mom and dad to fret over the seeping basement floor, dreading every distant thunderclap, swearing at the useless new French drain, ineffective against the seasonal, inevitable torrential downpours. No one standing in the driveway, chilled and soaked and fraught and bewildered, incomprehensibly grabbing the garage broom and madly sweeping the spring rain into private rivulets in whose channels back eddies form, which swirl and spill into the side yard somehow away from the foundation. No one will be squatting at the roofline's edge, hurling autumn's
Malcolm? Malcolm, if you're still there, you cut off at autumn's. Malcolm, did we lose you? We can't hear you if you can hear us. We're going to come back to you. We're going to let you finish your poem, but I'm going to move on for right now until you get signal again. So come back. Okay. So next on the sheet is Jana. Jana Bama.
Yeah, hi there.
Heidi ho.
All right, great show.
Thanks.
And I have a very short poem. Visiting my father. Each of his days was a glimpse through a high window of a blue cloud-wreathed world, small against the blackness. Each day was a snail's shell, transparent and empty. Each day was the silence of a horse galloping in the distance. A telegraph receiver at which he listened for the click of a message from someone who had forgotten his name.
Nice. Thank you. All right. Maybe don't mute myself right before I start talking. Okay. Next up, we have Charlie Curry. I hope you're doing one of your own since you did somebody else's earlier.
Yeah, this is one of mine.
Nice.
And it's about an event that was exactly 12 years ago yesterday. I mean, this is in 2 hours ago, it would be the same day. It's called Tracks. 21 January 2009. I was late. I saw no one on the northern trail, but Andy's footprints were there. Small feet, short steps, occasionally dragged heel, small circles where he stopped to talk. Rounding the corner near the leopards, I saw him in the distance, his long arms swinging across his body, charging forward. My longer stride caught me up near the bison and prairie dogs. We stopped to talk, new footprints in the circles. Did you see it? The inauguration? I did. He tells me the path between Aretha Franklin singing beneath her gray church lady's hat and Marian Anderson's before the Lincoln Memorial, his mother's praise for her voice, her persistence. How far between the events, how different from his Navy days where treating all with dignity was dangerous. A mottled sea of faces crowded together confirmed it yesterday. All are welcome in his walk.
Nice. Thank you very much. All right. Seems like Malcolm has joined us again. Malcolm, unmute for a second. I'll tell you. Let me know when you're there.
Hello.
Okay, so we cut off at where you say autumn. So go back. Can you go back just, to the start of that stanza where you say autumn? Or just, you know what? Start over. Go ahead. Start over. That sounds better.
All right. Thank you. I'm not sure what happened. Was it your side or mine?
It says you have a signal that bounces from bad to fine. So it's probably just because you're on the road.
Okay. Thank you. Tear down house. There will be no family to live within this house's walls, no beleaguered mom or dad to fret over the seeping basement floor, dreading every distant thunderclap, swearing at the useless new French drain, ineffective against the seasonal inevitable torrential downpours. No one standing in the driveway, chilled and soaked and fraught and bewildered, incomprehensibly grabbing the garage broom and madly sweeping the spring rain into private rivulets in whose channels back eddies form, which swirl and spill into the side yard, somehow away from the foundation. No one will be squatting at the roofline's edge, hurling autumn's fetid detritus below into the arms of unkempt shrubs. And no one hammering yet again those 4-inched galvanized nails back into the legs of the decaying porch to last, oh, if only one season more. Nor improvising a sister joist to forestall the demise of the wobbly wooden stairs, infested as they are with the clean-edged burrows of carpenter bees. Yes, bulldozers will soon set it free. This stick frame house will fall, its board and batten siding modeled by woodpecker holes. Gone the jagged, fractured panes of our suburban picture window, black mold thriving in the seams. That creaking shelf long unshimmed. The fascia boards in need of mend. in one abrupt catastrophe, riven at its very beams. But we do still now live in this tear-down house, in whose backyard my eyes have often rested and taken in the long view leading down to the creek. Here, where my sons have grown into men, and my wife and I have never found peace. Thank you.
Very much. I'm glad you were able to connect again. All right.
All right. I'll still listen in. This is fun.
Thank you. Glad you're here. All right. Moving on here, we have Derek Lieberts.
Hello. Really quick, before I do my poem, I want to mention something. Our group down in Mankato has a yearly contest that culminates in physical signs made of aluminum that are placed on the biking and walking trails around our area. And the contest deadline for the poems to be considered for 2021, which is a statewide, anybody who lives in Minnesota can submit contest, is the deadline's March 1st. And we'd love to hear and see submissions from people that we have not heard of before. Jana and I both live in the area and we're part of the local group there. So we're on the trails. Tony is also on the trails. And until just a few minutes ago, Catherine Kaiser was connected and she's on the trails. But we'd love to see more poets from Minnesota. And so I'm going to put the link to the website where you can send submissions in sec here. There's no cost and you can submit a few. You can read the submissions page for details.
Am I on the trail now, Derek?
And yes, you are. The very late 2020 signs have been installed. I think you were one of the ones that we have along the river walk, actually, like right on the river. So in this current climate, it might be a little cold to check, but come spring, it's probably going to be a really prime spot.
I'll be there. I'll just sit with a camping chair and say, hey, that's my poem.
Awesome. So I definitely encourage people to apply to that. Thanks for letting me plug. And then quickly, I am going to do a poem that's pretty recent called Patience. I grow bored of the board games and binges and puzzles that discard all of this slackened time. Days waste in the sun and rot, future anchored by pandemic. Sequester, bide, wait. Hands roar with curry and with saffron, a culinary tour virtually salting my passport, all to mask a mother's missing hug. Wait, sequester, bide. Feet shuffle slowly across the snow, trying to scrape sickness off my driveway, bearing black so the sun can sanitize. Bide, wait, sequester. But as these scars slowly accumulate, possibility banks her fire in my fingertips, while patience hibernates this viral winter, grinding teeth, but dreaming of wet noses nudging fertile ground. Sequester, bide, wait, wait, thrive.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So that's the people we had signed up. Is there anybody else on the call that would like to read a poem?
I will.
Who was that? Oh, is that
with a V?
Oh, yes, please take it away.
This is called Carrie Fury Waterfall. Nestled in the nature of Nico, Carrie Fury slices through the mountainside like the steel of a samurai's sword cuts through flesh. White water flowing over the black rock branches out like roots buried deep in soil. And exposed branches in the background remind me of an inverted waterfall. Or does the water's flow branch like an inverted tree? Being stronger than its wooden kin, the cascade cannot be felled by axe. And given enough time, even the strongest of rock can be moved by the brawn of water. The smallest drop carries the force of destruction in its hip pocket. Given all of its power, water still gently nourishes all that there is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Anyone else? Bueller? Christy? Bueller? Anyone? Okay. Then what I'm going to do here before we go, so I have a poem that I recorded with a friend of mine, and so it has music and stuff, and I was just going to play that instead of reading it because I think the composition is really cool, and I hope it sounds okay. So here we go. It starts quiet. Hold on.
I fall apart. Pieces are shiny on the floor. I feel lost in each one. They will shatter further into sand. I can't stand the 2 steps back and I mean, 1 step forward should mean something. It should mean something. I am the desert and progress is water. I know where to find it. In the scattered cacti, occasional oasis, but it's so cold at night. It's so cold at night. I wanted to be the trees. I wanted the birds to spread my seeds. I wanted the wind to move me. Not change me. These dunes have stories. But they aren't much in the way of progress.
So that was all just a shameless plug for my new book that I am doing pre-orders right now. So please go to this website here, mentalvalley.com/conflict presale. And if you're interested in my work, that poem you just heard is actually from a previous book. So it's kind of bad advertising, and I get that. But, you know, I'm ADD and I just, you know, whatever. So anyway, so if there's no one else who wants to go, speak now or forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we're going to end the show. I want to thank again so much for Valeria, who had to go, Ashley Cardona, we had Dominique Jones, and then we had Paige Riehl as our wonderful features this evening. Please join us again next month on February 17th at 7 p.m. We're going to have a Black History Month show run by Mac House, and they'll have 5 featured artists, and then I think they are still going to do an open mic as well. But please be there. And otherwise, thank you so much for being here. My name's Tony Placido. This has been Poets and Pints. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. Happy Inauguration Day. The tyranny is over. Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you.
You made me love you. I didn't want to do it,